the head coach of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, Charles Kelly, joining us from Frisco, Texas. Conference USA Media Day happening today out in Frisco. Coach, we appreciate your time this morning. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be with you.
Yeah, great to have you on. And as you get ready for Media Day, got a couple of players I know with you in Michael Petway and Daryl Prater. First of all, just talk about kind of being there as the head coach at Jacksonville State, the guys you brought with you getting ready for football season, but get ready for Media Day today.
Well, first of all, it's it's an honor to represent our university, our faculty, our staff, our administration, our student body, and especially our players. And I feel like Daryl and Michael, they've been around Jax State for a while. They've been a part of Conference USA, been a part of a conference championship, and I really felt like not only those two guys, but most of our team has done a good job of buying into the values of, what we want to, build our program on. But, I think Pet and DP have, they just kind of epitomized it. They've been very good leaders. They've been very vocal. They've been a very good influence on their teammates. So they are truly, good representatives of our program and what we want to do with it.
How's your first off season been so far with the Gamecocks? I know you'll be cranking up with fall camp here in a couple of weeks, but just so far, how's the off season been?
I mean, it's been really good. I was telling somebody yesterday. It seemed like it was yesterday that I was named the head coach. We had to come in there. We had to replace a lot of guys. I think you and I talked about this before. When I got the job, there were only 47 guys on scholarship the morning after. So we brought in 51 new guys, and it's more than just bringing people into your program. You got to do a good job of evaluating not only their athletic ability, but are they the right fit for what you're trying to build, and building a championship culture. I think that was our first priority, was the roster management. Then we got into our off-season program, which I think, Dr. Will Wright is our director of sports performance. He's done an incredible job with these guys, in the weight room and, all the off-season training that we do. And our coaching staff has done a really good job, not only carrying over from the winter program to spring practice, but nowadays in college football, it's year-long. So once we finished spring, the guys had a little bit of a break in May, and then they came back for summer workouts. We got started back about Memorial Day, and, it's a year-long thing. But I think our players and our staff have done a really good job of, keeping the main thing, just worrying about work, making sure we develop every day and become better.
Just from the spring and the time you've been able to spend with these guys, and again, I know fall camp coming up, and you'll have a chance to learn these guys more. What do you like about this group that you have in your first year at Jax State?
Well, first of all, I love the work ethic. They don't mind working. Of course, they're like any other young person that you deal with and coach. I mean, our job as coaches is to make sure we correct them and develop the right kind of habits. But I really like their work ethic. I like the way they bonded together. The biggest challenge in college football right now, no matter where you're at, is your roster changes yearly. So a big challenge is, being able to create a team. Because at the end of the day, what wins football games is never going to change. It's going to be the intangibles. It's going to be the execution, the working. So I think that's the biggest challenge when you bring new guys in, is making sure, you gel as a team. And of course that is a ongoing process. We'll do that in, fall camp too. But I like a lot of the position groups. I like, on offense, I like what Clint has done with our quarterbacks. I think Max Thurman's done a great job with our running back room. The one thing you got to be able to do in any league is be able to run the football. I like where we're at. we're young on the offensive line, but I wouldn't trade our coach for anybody in America at developing young offensive linemen. And, I think you'll probably see a little bit more production out of our tight ends this year. I think we've done a good job of bringing guys in, not only that can, block on the line of scrimmage, but can, be mismatches in the pass game. And, our wide receiver core is Lawrence Dawsey's done a good job, bringing some guys in. We have a couple of freshmen that I think, have a chance to help us this year, just from a talent standpoint. Now, whether they can withhold the day-to-day grind that it takes in football. And then on defense, I think we did a good job of, addressing our needs up front. You got to have depth up front to be able to play. And it's always going to be one on the line of scrimmage. So I think Brian Williams and Xavier Garcia have done a good job of that. And, we're young at linebacker, but we've got some talent. We got some guys that can run, that are athletic. And then in the secondary, I think the secondary is probably the biggest challenge, that I felt like that we had to address when I got in here. And, we've got a lot of new faces. I think they've done a good job this summer, but I think fall camp's going to be big and, try to create some depth in that room.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about offensive line specifically, and I was going to say, look, you got one of the best in Rick Trickett leading that position group, but again, a lot of turnover at that position. Some guys, whether transfer or graduation after last year, and talk about that group specifically, what you're looking for out of them, kind of where you want to see improvement. Again, a very, very important position in offensive line. Just talk about that group as a whole.
Well, I think one thing that, even when Coach Trickett was here was Rich Rod. I mean, they've been relatively young, every year. Every year they've had, freshmen that have come on and, played well. I think we've got some good, some talented guys, some guys that have experience. I mean, Bubba Grayson's probably as good a prospect as you got in this conference. And we feel like we recruited and gotten a couple of transfers that, definitely have the ability to win in this league. And, at the end of the day, at every position, it is always going to be about, you got to do a good job of evaluating who you bring in, but it's development. And as you said, Rick Trickett's as good a developer of offensive line as there is in the country. But, I think we're, what I've seen throughout, and a lot of it, we'll determine that once fall camp, once we put the pads on. But from an athletic standpoint and an ability standpoint, I feel like we've got the guys to build a good offensive line.
Jax State head football coach Charles Kelly joining us this morning as Conference USA Media Day happening today, and Coach Jax State, and obviously the defending Conference USA champs. How do you build on that? It's just year 3 in the conference. I mean, it was a great year for Jax State. First year, you win it in year 2. How do you kind of keep that up and keep those kind of expectations going as you build this program at Conference USA?
Well, first of all, there's nothing like having guys that have won, because they understand what it takes to be able to win a championship. And that definitely is an advantage for us. But at the same time, a lot of those guys that were on that championship team weren't necessarily the starters, and, it's different watching or being a backup than it is actually out there producing. So we've got to make sure that we keep these guys understanding what it takes to win at this level. But I think momentum is a big thing in sports. We have a lot of momentum, at Jax State. I think we have the support that we need. Our administration, our board of trustees. I mean, everybody's going in the same direction, and we have a great place to recruit to. I mentioned it earlier when I first took the job. In a 5-hour radius, there are a lot of good football players, and if we do a good job of evaluating and developing, that is our goal, to win championships, and it will never be anything less than that.
And Coach, we are 37 days away from you guys hitting the field at UCF to get the 2025 season started. We're excited for Jax State football here, and I know you guys are excited to get out there as well. Coach, really appreciate your time this morning. Taking a few minutes to talk with us. Enjoy Media Day, and we'll catch up with you again soon. But thanks so much for coming on this morning.
All right, good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.